So I really like The Witcher 3. Call me a fan. I don't think this is surprising to anybody when you consider how many videos I've made about the game at this point. I love it. And I think among everybody who loved The Witcher 3 and The Witcher core trilogy just in general, I don't think any of us thought that it needed more content, which is why we were all the more surprised and blown away when it was revealed that they were actually going to release an expansion for the game called Songs of the Past. I mean, I was overwhelmed with emotion when this was revealed. The idea that we're getting an expansion well over a decade after the game's release, and it's apparently going to be massive and connect like The Witcher 3 to The Witcher 4. I'm very happy. I'm very happy and excited. And it was just revealed that it is going to be shown off at opening night live at Gamescom in Cologne, Germany on August 25th, which we will be co-streaming. You better believe it. Make sure to subscribe to Luke Stevens Live, my second channel, linked below if you've not already. It's a good time. We're going to be watching this and reacting live, so definitely get subbed over there. But I wanted to find out more about this, so I have dug into the history of this expansion, all of the leaks, rumors. There's even been a few data breaches, which we will dance around carefully because we want to, of course, be respectful and not talk about anything that we shouldn't be. But I'm going to tell you all about this expansion, what we know, what we don't know, what I expect from it, and I also figured out why this is happening, and it's just kind of funny because there is a reason this is happening. I don't think this was planned 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I think that this is happening because of one very, very simple reason, which is kind of interesting. So I'll tell you all about it. But first, a thank you to our sponsor, Milky, who happens to make a product that I love and use every single day. This is one of those rare cases where I actually reached out to this sponsor asking if they could sponsor me because I love their product so much. So check it out. Milky is the lactase enzyme supplement that allows for lactose intolerant people to still enjoy dairy products to their heart's content. I'm actually lactose intolerant myself, and I was looking for years for some solution or option so that I could go get like a coffee with regular milk or go get ice cream with my kids or something like that, which previously I just couldn't do if I wanted to function at all. You know, my stomach does not like dairy. But then I found Milky, and I actually reached out to them asking if we could work together because I'm such a believer in their product. Like, no joke, I've actually saved some of these empty pouches that I've used over the last like few months, all of them used because I use them constantly. And how it works is super easy. Milky will ship you the supplements in some very nice packaging. You just pop out one of the packs of the supplement tablets, and then you can put this in your wallet. I, for one, just carry it with me in my wallet or in my pocket, whatever. And when you have your first bite or sip of dairy, you just pop one of these out and enjoy it. Check them out today at shopmilky.com. Okay, so a little background just to understand the timeline of everything we're going through. The Witcher 3 launched in May of 2015 to critical acclaim. It, of course, ended up winning Game of the Year later that year, and over the next year or so after its launch, it received two major story expansions, namely the Hearts of Stone DLC expansion and Blood and Wine. Hearts of Stone is really good. It's about 15 hours, and it's like just potent story. It is so good. If you've not played it, I love it dearly. It's just so good. I mean, not just because of Gunter Dim, but like everything in it. It's just phenomenally well executed. It's so good. Blood and Wine, though, introduces a whole new area to the map, Toussaint, with its rolling hills and vineyards, and Geralt even gets access to a villa and vineyard of his own. This expansion adds anywhere from 20 to 30 hours of game content. Some people can get it all the way to 40 hours of content if you're like a total completionist. It's a lot of content. And it's awesome. It also represents the final send-off for Geralt as a character, as The Witcher was originally intended to be a core trilogy of games. And after that, they really didn't know where they were going to go next, whether it was to make Ciri the protagonist or to go and do prequel stuff. They didn't really know. And the developers have been pretty clear about that, is that the original trilogy was what they had planned and what they expected. So at the end of Blood and Wine, that was Geralt's story with a period on the end of the sentence. That was kind of the idea. And this is clear when you play through Blood and Wine. I guess I should clarify, based on your decisions, this could be different. But overall, at the end of Blood and Wine, like, you finish with Geralt at his villa, overlooking Toussaint, relaxing and chilling with his beloved, or Dandelion. If you refuse to like pursue either Triss or Yennefer, it's kind of funny. Or if you pursue both of them and they tell you to screw yourself, Dandelion will be the one that shows up instead of Triss or Yennefer, which I just think is funny. Like, if Geralt is a little greedy, tries to get with both girls, he doesn't get either, and Dandelion shows up. It's just a fun touch. But having said that, it's clear that that is supposed to be like the send-off for Geralt, as he literally chills in a vineyard overlooking a beautiful expanse. It's awesome. And I think all fans of The Witcher 3 were just fine with this being the send-off for Geralt. I know I was. Like, who could complain after Blood and Wine? I think that is a perfectly fine way to end the trilogy and Geralt. Like, that's a baller way to send him off. I mean, it's great. But then the next few years ticked by and we all eagerly awaited Cyberpunk 2077, which, to put it simply, launched. After it launched in one state or another, they spent another year or two working frantically to try and patch it up and fix it. And when they eventually did, rumors started to really spin that maybe there was something else in the works. However, rumblings and rumors of unused Witcher content go all the way back to like 2021. You see, back in very early 2021, there was actually a hacking where some people got access to the full source code for Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher 3 and some other stuff that they were working on, like Thronebreaker and that type of thing within CDPR. And they apparently auctioned off all of that source code to someone. They went on some like dark web forum and they auctioned it off for Bitcoin and sold the data to someone. We don't know exactly who. I'm not one to like start digging around and try to find it. I don't need the source code, but apparently it did sell to someone. And this was, according to rumors, one of the reasons why CDPR pursued a relationship with Epic Games to move over to Unreal Engine, in addition to a lot of other reasons that they liked moving over to Unreal. But apparently their whole like source code base and everything for their Red Engine leaking was a component of that decision because it introduced a ton of security vulnerabilities and all sorts of other stuff. Now, as part of this leak, some individuals claim to have gotten access to the data after it sold, which I cannot verify. I don't know if that's true, but they claimed it. And these people who claimed to have access to the data pointed out that there were a bunch of, the way that they phrased it in the forums was like shadows of unused content, shadows of questing logic and stuff that wasn't fully realized or utilized. It seems like stuff had been played around with and then abandoned, but this is when it started to go around that maybe something was happening in the background with The Witcher 3. Maybe it wasn't actually shelved. Maybe there was plans for another something in the future. And then Google Translate struck. You see, there was an article or an interview that went out from like a PR person at CDPR, because this was right around the time of the Netflix show really coming out and getting some momentum and people getting really excited about it. And they said that there was going to be new content related to the show coming to The Witcher 3. You see, this ended up being a mistranslation. What the individual was trying to say is that they were going to do a crossover event where they would let you get as DLC, the Netflix armor from the show in the game. But people heard that and then it got mistranslated into a full expansion is coming out that ties in the show with the game. And that's not what it was, but it got people excited and it kind of started the first thoughts of like, what would happen if they did add new content to The Witcher 3? What could be? Can you imagine? Wouldn't that be crazy if they did an expansion or a DLC, a major release for The Witcher 3 all these years later? Who would think that's even possible? You know, but it all started apparently from a mistranslation for a Netflix crossover armor set, which is just kind of funny that it ended up becoming real from there. But that's where initially like the first leaks of an expansion came from. It was actually from a Netflix mistranslation, which is funny. In December of 2022, there was of course the big next gen update to The Witcher 3, which added a bunch of new bells and whistles, things like ray tracing support, faster loading times, mod integration, and of course the official tie-in of that Netflix armor set. And I remember playing this when it launched. We even did a video on the channel about it, and it was like, yeah, this is sweet. We got a Witcher 3 update all these years later, and it actually improves the game in a pretty significant way. It's awesome. I hate to bring up the comparison again. Who am I kidding? No, I don't. I love to bring this up, but like just compare the difference in approaches between like CDPR with this update and like what BGS did with Fallout 4. Like BGS adds the anniversary edition to Fallout 4 and it breaks VATS, which is like the core combat system in that game. It's like breaking potions in The Witcher 3. Like it's a big deal. They break VATS and also just happen to introduce the creations mode, which allows for you to like download paid mods, which is just microtransactions. So they add an in-game store, break VATs, and then they didn't fix it for, I am not kidding, 19 months. 19 months went by before they fixed the Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition. And you know how they fixed it? They just undid the next gen update for Fallout 4, but kept creations in there with the in-game store, which is just amazing. Like, and then you compare it to like The Witcher 3, which gets this like free update to add ray tracing and free like DLC integrations, all this stuff. It's just polar opposite, man, between like really catering to your fans and whatever the hell they were doing. But then some rumors started to spread around a little bit more that perhaps there was something coming to The Witcher 3 that people didn't know about. And this information started to come through some of the earnings calls and financial disclosures that CDPR is required by law to release. You know, these are those big reports that are super fun that outline where money is going, what it's being spent on, and usually it's going to be pretty vague. It's often just like, we have $10 million going to unannounced project number 4. It's stuff like that. But what you can tell is that money is going somewhere, right? Like you can tell that money is going to some unannounced project. And as you start to piece together what's happening, you're like, okay, this one's probably the sequel to Cyberpunk. This is probably The Witcher 4 based on the money that's going out and how frequently it's going out and how it's ramping up. But there were always some projects and some places and buckets where money was going that people couldn't account for. People didn't know what that was. And so the rumors started to percolate and to spin and grow and evolve that maybe, just maybe, this is like an exciting surprise DLC for Cyberpunk, or surprise expansion for The Witcher 3 or something, or a full remake of The Witcher 1, 2, and 3 all put together into one package. We just didn't know. But then in May of 2024, CDPR reveals The Witcher 3 Red Kit, which is basically like the full modding tool set that allows you to go in and just like mod the game to your heart's content, do all sorts of crazy stuff with fully realized tools that make it much easier for independent teams or developers to mod the game, which is awesome and really, really cool. But what was surprising about this is that the mod tools were coming 9 years after launch in an engine that they were abandoning, which is weird. Like, why are they putting that much effort into an engine that they apparently are done with and they're moving on to Unreal? Like, why would they be putting all of this money in there? Like, sure, you could say it's just to build out the modding community and it's to help keep the games alive as you wait for the sequel and all that. It's just good for the community. I get that, sure. But it's still surprising, you know? It's still surprising. And so then developers and people just generally way smarter than me started digging through the Red Kit and some of the in-game files to try and piece together what might be going on. And they found all sorts of little tidbits and strings of code and questing logic and things in The Witcher 3 that seemed to be unused or just totally open-ended with the opportunity to be utilized later. And I won't pretend to know exactly what all of that means, but again, people smarter than me thought it was significant, so I'm going to pretend to understand and agree. 2025 comes along and there's a bunch of smoke coming about suggesting that there may be a fire as it relates to a DLC for The Witcher 3. Specifically, during a November 2025 investor call, the CFO or Chief Financial Officer of CD Projekt Red, Peter Nylobowicz, he implied the existence of an unannounced product, saying, quote, "Given our current progress, there is a chance that a new content hinted upon in recent calls and reports may see release in the coming year," meaning 2026, which, to be clear, was the original release window for this DLC. They decided to delay it to 2027, apparently because they needed more time for polishing, but also it looks like it was originally releasing in November, right next to GTA 6. So they decided to delay it, give it some more space, which I think is a good call. CEO Michael Nowakowski also chimed in about a mystery project in a Q&A session following the presentation, telling investors that a majority of the workforce at support studio Fool's Theory was working on it via IGN, later noting this amounted to over 100 developers. So there was some mysterious project that was being worked on by over 100 people, which is wild. But the real guy that has been on top of all of this is an analyst from Polish Noble Securities named Mateusz. He is the wizard that has seen this coming. He's the one that dug into all of those financial reports and saw this coming from a mile away. He said and forecasted that there was going to be a paid add-on with a budget of 52 million Polish think it's krona, I believe is the currency there, or about 14 million USD. And it was scheduled for release in May of 2026, later delayed to like November of 26, and then delayed into 2027. And he said the release should kick off the actual marketing campaign for The Witcher 4, which would imply that The Witcher 4 is actually quite close. Potentially late 27 or potentially early 28, which would be crazy, but that's possible. And then, of course, it was officially revealed accidentally through the Red launcher and then through an actual stream where they revealed that they were working on a new expansion. It was being developed in partnership with Fool's Theory, who is the team behind the Thaumaturge. And now they are basically a full like Witcher support studio, and they have over 100 people working on this new expansion, which the CEO has described as roughly in line with Blood and Wine, suggesting a new area, 20 to 30 hours of new content, if not more, and it is expected to bridge the gap between The Witcher 3 and The Witcher 4. This is also seemingly why CDPR was investing a couple of years ago all of that money in building out the mod tools and by building out all of these different things within the Red engine, which they had previously walked away from. And it's because they were preparing to go back to The Witcher 3 and to like go back into that code and into that engine and build out a new expansion, which is awesome. But I think the most interesting thing about this is why this is happening. And it's like exactly what you'd expect. As always, most decisions within corporations are happening because of money, moolah, cachet, as it were. And in this case, that is very, very true. You see, these same analysts, the all-stars that have been poring over these documents, trying to figure out what might be happening with the company based on where the money is going and all that, they put a couple of dots together, which makes perfect sense. In some reporting from Eurogamer, there was this put together, which looked at a couple of interesting statements from some of these analysts, namely this guy, again, from Noble Securities, Mateus, who outlined his absolute confidence in them releasing a DLC and was later vindicated when it was fully revealed. And another individual named Boris, who is the other person credited with originating rumors of this unexpected Witcher 3 content release. And he said he stood by the information and said it had been verified by several independent sources as well. But what these two guys said specifically as to why this is happening, it's kind of interesting. You see, within a lot of corporations, there's incentive programs for executives, meaning if they meet certain thresholds, they get massive paydays. I'm sure you've heard of the like crazy incentives for like Tesla, where Elon Musk needs to sell, 15 trillion cars or robots, and then he becomes a quadrillionaire or whatever. Like there's all sorts of stuff like this in companies where, hey, if you meet this threshold, if you sell this many iPhones, if you move this many copies of a video game or whatever, or if you get our stock price to this point, you get rewarded with all of this stuff. That's how like shareholders and boards of directors tend to incentivize executives to reach certain goals, is by offering them a massive carrot for achieving some basic activity or some goal. And in this case, there is an incentive program at the core of their reasoning. It's part of the salary for key employees at CDPR, usually management, and it aims to incentivize them by granting additional shares should certain financial targets be met. Do well, gain wealth, basically, which makes sense. You get like these targets hit, you will get X number of millions in stock, right? That's how this works. In order to meet the requirements, CDPR has to earn PLN 2 billion or roughly 412 million pounds cumulative net profit between 2023 and 2026. And they have to reach 617 million between 24 and 27 and 823 million between 25 and 2028. This is all publicly available information because, again, they have to disclose this to investors when this agreement is being made. And sometimes in some countries it has to be ratified by all of the shareholders. But in this case, this is all public knowledge. You can look this up. These are the guidelines and the kind of thresholds they have to meet in order to get these massive payouts. He goes on, quote, "It's the first threshold bracket the pressure is particularly on. Currently, quote, the 144 million pounds is needed to meet the first threshold with only 5 quarters remaining. Bear in mind, this article was written in January of 2026, meaning that they have through basically Q1 of 2027. So they have until like March of next year to get this done. Okay. They have to meet that threshold by that point." He goes on, quote, "This implies the need for something significantly larger than just another update or a version for a niche platform. And the article continues on to ask like the basic questions. What else do they have that they can release? They haven't released a new game since Cyberpunk's Phantom Liberty expansion in late 2023, although they did bring the game to the Switch too, along with the console's release last year, which seemed to work very well. It is an amazing port. If you've not seen it running on the Switch 2, it's ridiculous that that thing runs on a handheld like the Switch 2 that well. It's like straight up magic. Cyberpunk 2077 continues to sell well, surpassing 35 million sales mark last year and holding strong as top grossing game on Steam. But in order to make up the incentive program shortfall, it will need something more. The next announced game in the pipeline, however, is The Witcher 4, which won't be released before 2027, which is what they previously announced. It's not releasing before then. And realistically, it's looking like it's probably late 27 to 2028. It's probably not like shadow dropping in January is what I'm saying. In other words, there's just not that many things for them to release or sell that we know about, right? Like there's just not that many options. And that's why these analysts were able to figure out that this was probably that Witcher 3 expansion that was rumored for so long, because they can release that. It's expected at like 30, 40 bucks. And that will give them a huge chunk of change to hit that first threshold. But these thresholds are also precisely why I'm expecting that The Witcher 4 is probably coming much sooner than people expect. Like, I think they have all of their eggs in this basket to try and get this stuff going aggressively, very, very quickly. But I hear you're barking, big dog. Luke, the timeline for the first threshold is 412 million between 23 and 26. And then they have to do from 24 to 27, 823 million. So how is this DLC going to help them meet this threshold if this cuts off in 2026 at the end of this year? I've gotten conflicting information. For one, like report, they were suggesting that they have until the end of March because of how the like financial fiscal year ends for CDPR. So they actually have like fiscal year 2026, not necessarily calendar year. So that's one aspect of it. But the other side of this too is that they probably are going to have like some sort of pre-order system or something. I don't know exactly how it'll work, but I think they're going to try to get some of that money up front for this, which just makes sense to me. But this again is why I'm expecting that we're going to see The Witcher 4 and 5 much sooner than people think. Like if you're thinking that they're going to do the kind of 20 years between releases thing, I don't think that's what they're doing. I think that they actually will get The Witcher 3 out probably in 2027, because how else are they going to get this huge spike in revenue generated in that time? I mean, they got to get a pretty significant chunk of change coming in between 2026 and 2027. And I think The Witcher 4 is the only thing that could generate like $150 million in revenue. I mean, what else is going to do that? And as Eurogamer reports also, CDPR has referenced this incentive program as part of their core strategizing for years at this point. But they said this recently at the end of 2025, where they said, quote, given our current progress towards that first threshold, there is a chance that new content hinted upon in recent calls and reports may see release in the coming year, which is what we read earlier, having an impact on our results and increasing the likelihood of achieving the earnings condition for the first stage of the incentive program. Basically just saying, we're working on something, we need cash. So yeah, we're going to bring some money in and we're going to hit that first threshold, and then we're going to hit the second, then the third, and we're going all the way to DC, baby. Yeah, like that's basically what they're saying. Okay, wait, I realize that you may not know what I was just referencing with the scream. This is niche, okay? Back in 2004, there was a guy named Howard Dean running for president, and he gave a little speech where he very excitedly was describing how they were going to go from Iowa to the next state to the next state and go all the way to Washington and then take back the White House. Yeah, and he let out a scream, which was so iconic at the time that it turned into a meme, and it basically killed his entire campaign. It's just kind of funny. But this is what I was referencing.
We're going to New Hampshire, Tom Harkin. We're going to South Carolina and Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota and New Mexico. And we're going to California and Texas and New York. And we're going to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan.
Wait for it.
And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Yeah!
Yeah! I can't even do it. So sorry. Niche reference, I grant you, but a classic nonetheless. But anyway, all of this to say, I am very, very excited for this DLC. As for what exactly I'm expecting, like I said earlier, I think it's probably going to be in the size range roughly of Blood and Wine. I think it's probably going to bridge the gap between The Witcher 4 and The Witcher 3. It's going to kind of pass the sword, pass the baton over to Ciri. And I think it's going to be really dark and gritty, not just because the artwork is like haunting and beautiful, but because the team behind it is primarily Fool's Theory. And if you've not played the Thaumaturge, they excel at like grounded storytelling, like focusing on the human aspect, the human emotional aspect of their stories. And so I'm just really excited to hear what they do with it and to see how all of these dots are going to connect. I'm really, really excited. And we're going to see it at Gamescom on August 25th. It's crazy, but like we're almost there. But I think one of the other things that's most exciting about all of this and digging into all of this is just the clear realization that the fact that this exists is proof positive that CDPR really wants to hit those deadlines and thresholds and financial targets. And the reason that's a good thing is because it means now they have a fire under their ass to get The Witcher 4 and Cyberpunk's sequel and all these games out in a reasonable amount of time, which is something that we just have not seen in the industry. Really. I mean, there are developers like a Naughty Dog, for example, that released a big game in 2020 and then have done nothing since then except remakes and remasters and stuff. Like they have almost entirely skipped a generation, which is crazy. Like granted, they were working on a live service game for a bit that got canned, but still it's wild that you have massive teams that are beloved that have just been like totally AFK this generation. And on the flip side, we're seeing like CDPR come out and they are being very aggressive. They want to have Witcher 4, of course, the remake of the first Witcher game, this DLC. They want to have the sequel to Cyberpunk and The Witcher 5 and The Witcher 6 all out probably before like 2032, which is crazy. It's absolutely wild. But I think they could probably do it. We saw what they could do with Phantom Liberty. It's not impossible. Of course, remain cautiously optimistic. As with all things, you should not buy it hook, line, and sinker, especially after Cyberpunk 2077. You should always maintain healthy, cautious optimism. Don't let your hype get out of control. Always be cautious. But given what they've demonstrated they are capable of, given the scale and size of their teams, and also how they've like organized and set themselves up, I'm actually pretty optimistic that they will be able to deliver on almost all of this. And maybe some delays here and there to get things a little bit extra polish or whatever. But I think rough timelines before 2030, we probably have The Witcher 4 Cyberpunk sequel and potentially The Witcher 5, which is wild, but that's like not impossible. It's actually kind of crazy to think we have 3 CDPR games, 4 if you count the remake of The Witcher 1 from them. We could have all of that in this time frame, which is crazy. So buckle up, buckaroo. It's gonna be fun. And make sure to again subscribe to my second channel, Luke Stevens Live, for the live reaction to opening night live and Gamescom and everything. We'll be hanging out and having a great time. So make sure to subscribe over there. But that's going to do it for me, my friends. Thank you for watching. Thanks for chilling. Let me know what you hope to see and expect in the DLC for The Witcher 3, The Songs of the Past. Do you think Geralt's going to finally sing? We can only hope. Thanks for watching. I love you all. I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye. Mwah.